All right, let me give you the top 10 issues that you might face with your car seat belts and how to fix them if they are fixable. At number 10, we have a problem with seat belts that retract back really very slowly. I guess we all know that a seat belt is supposed to snap back at a specific speed, but look at this one. It's moving back really very slowly, and sometimes it can even fail to go back. And this is usually caused by two main issues. Sometimes the seatbelt is really very dirty and it has dirt and dust inside, so the retracting system or the retractor machine can't pull it fast enough inside. And then two, sometimes the problem is with the retractor coil spring, which gets old and fail to pull the seatbelt inside at that fast speed. If you're facing this type of problem, you have two solutions. You can either wash the seatbelt, and when I'm talking about washing the seatbelt, I mean to pull the seatbelt all out and you dip it in detergent with clean water. You give it like 30 minutes, then you wash it and then you rinse it in clean water. Or you have to replace the retractor coil spring. The question is that replaceable? Yes, it can be replaced, but it can only be done by professionals. Then at number 9, we have faulty seatbelt buckles. Now this is called a male buckle and this is called a female buckle. Now there are cases when the male buckle breaks and fails to enter the female buckle, or the female buckle malfunctions and the male buckle fails to enter and lock inside the female buckle. So you might be facing something like this. You see? So you try to push the male buckle into the female buckle, but it fails. Yes, I've seen videos on YouTube where they say that you can just spray WD-40 into the female buckle and it works again, or use a screwdriver to try to push it in and out and then it works again. But I think the ultimate solution for such a problem is to just replace the female buckle, if at all it's the one that is malfunctioning, or even just replacing the male buckle if it's broken. So the question is, can it be replaced? Yes, both can be replaced, but you need to make sure that you find the exact design, because the buckles of Toyota can be totally different from the buckles of Mercedes-Benz and Mazda and Nissan. Next, we have malfunctioning emergency retractor locks. So we all know that if you pull out a seatbelt slowly, it will come out. But if you try to force it out or pull it out at a high speed, it will lock. Now that it's called an emergency retractor lock. It helps the seatbelt to lock us onto the car seat in case of sudden braking, so that we don't hit the steering or the co-driver doesn't hit the dashboard. Now, if you have a seat belt and for it, when you pull it out with force, it doesn't lock, then of course it has a problem. And unfortunately, you can't fix that yourself. It's not really an easy fix. You have to go to a professional who deals in seat belts and they check on that emergency retractor lock, because sometimes it happens when the car is involved or has ever been involved in an accident, or if the car is very old and the seatbelt retractor machines have really gotten so old, so that retractor lock also fails. Then next, we have a problem of dirty seatbelts. For example, look at this one. Now, seatbelts tend to get dirty over time. For example, now for people who drive when their windows are down, seatbelts can collect a lot of dust. They collect sweat, lotion, Vaseline, and after some time, they will tend to transfer that dirt to your shirt or blouse or jacket, whatever you're putting on, every time you buckle up. So there are mainly two ways you can fix this. Option one is to completely replace the seatbelt and you get a new one, and you can also change the color. For example, this car came with gray, but for the driver's seatbelt it was changed to black, because black rarely gets dirty. And then solution number two, you can wash the seatbelts. And if I'm talking about washing the seatbelts, I'm not talking about getting a sponge and you try to wipe it clean. No. And don't take the seatbelts to the washing bay and you tell those kids to wash them. They won't clean them well. The best way is to pull the seatbelt all the way, and then you find ways of locking it so that it doesn't retract back. Then you dip the seatbelt in water and detergent. You leave it there for like 30 minutes to an hour. Then you'll use a soft brush or a sponge to clean it. You'll see that the dirt will come out, and then after you rinse the seatbelt with clean water, leave it locked for some minutes or even an hour or hours. Then after, when it's dry, you can unlock it so that it retracts back. There are also cases when the seatbelt gets frayed, and by fraying I mean you'll see threads coming out of the seatbelt webbing. Sometimes it starts as a single thread, then you see 2, then 5, then 10, and the next thing you know, the whole seatbelt is gone. So this is caused by a lot of things. Sometimes it's done unintentionally by the kids when they are playing with the seatbelts. Sometimes it's caused by the seatbelt getting old because you've used it for a very long time. But this has two main solutions. If the seatbelts have just started fraying, like when you've just started seeing maybe a single thread or 2 or 3, you can simply just get a lighter or a matchbox and then you burn the edges of the seatbelt webbing so that you prevent other threads from coming out of the webbing. The other alternative is to just replace the seat belt. And the question is, can the seat belt webbing be replaced? Yes. And if you're currently in Uganda, we can replace your seat belt webbing. Simply just go in the description and you check the link. We can do that. You can change to any color. We have colors like green, red, yellow, neon green, black. So there are very many seat belts that you can change to. So if you're having an issue with spraying seat belts, feel free to just hit us up, especially for the people who are in Uganda. Next, you might also see a situation when the seatbelt can retract back or can go back normally, but actually when you try to pull it out, it can't come out. Now, in most cases, this is usually caused by an old emergency retractor lock, because remember, the way it works, it allows the seatbelt to retract back, but in case of sudden braking, it will prevent the seatbelt to come out. This problem can also be fixed, but in most cases it's brought about by an old seatbelt system, because as we use these seatbelts each and every day, they also tend to get old after some time. So in that case, you'll need to take your car or your seatbelt system to a professional and they check on that emergency retractor lock, because sometimes it needs cleaning or it has gotten out of shape or it just needs to be replaced. Let's also talk about the lights. You know, there are cases when you've actually buckled up the right way, but the dashboard is showing that your seatbelt is not buckled up. In this case, sometimes the problem is on the cables that are under your seat, because sometimes they get loose, sometimes they are damaged. So to fix this, you just need to check on those cables, and if you can't find the problem, you need to talk to a wiring technician and they figure out where the problem is coming from. And then part 2 of the same point, you can as well see the airbag lights getting on because maybe the car was involved in an accident, or your car seatbelt systems were tampered with, or if at all someone worked on your seatbelt system in the past, then you just need to open up the pillars to check if the airbag cables were connected back to the retractor systems. Next, if the seatbelts look so dirty or they are so old, you can always replace them. I've talked about this in the previous point that I gave you. Because sometimes you guys tend to ask me that, do we replace the webbing or we replace the complete seatbelt system? And the answer is simple. You can replace the webbing because it's cheaper to replace the webbing only. If at all you want to buy a brand new seatbelt system, still, it's not a problem. You can always find them out there in the market. But if you want to only change the webbing, that is also possible, meaning you'll keep the retractor system, you'll keep the backhoes, and everything else will still be the same, but the webbing will be brand new. So feel free, if you have a problem with old seatbelts, you can always change to another color. At number 2, we have seatbelts that lock when a car is involved in a car accident. So you see, when a car crashes and airbags deploy, in the seatbelt system, there is something that we call a pretensioner. Now, that pretensioner also deploys. And when it deploys, the seatbelts lock you onto your car seat so that in an event that the car overturns or goes upside down, you're not thrown out the window or even the windscreen for the car to crash you. The pretensioners have one disadvantage. When they lock, they can't unlock again unless you go to a professional who deals in car seat belts, and then they remove those locks and then they install another pretensioner. This means that when your car is involved in an accident, these seat belts won't be able to retract out or even go back in, so you won't be able to use them however much you force them. Now, when you want to fix these seat belts, you only have 2 options. Option 1 is to either find a professional who deals in car seat belts to fix these seat belts and remove the Pretensioner locks. Your second option will be to go to the market and find second-hand seat belts or brand new seat belts for your car specific model. For example, if you're driving a Toyota Probox, you can go in the market where you buy your car parts from and look for seat belts for your Toyota Probox. And then at number 1, we have cars that completely don't have seat belts at all. A few weeks ago, I was working on a certain Land Rover. It was a very old model and it didn't have any seat belts installed. So in case you have such a car and you would want it to have seat belts of its own, you'll also have two options to choose from. Either you'll have to go in the market where you buy your car parts from and look for the seat belts for that specific model. For my case, it was a Land Rover, but it was a very old model. So I don't even think in the market you can find the seat belts for that car. Option 2 would be to get any other type of seat belts, maybe for Subaru or a Toyota or a Mazda, and then you find ways of installing them in that car. So the advantage of using any car model seat belts in that Land Rover would be the fact that the seat belts would be working well. But the disadvantage of that will be one. Since the seat belts you've installed in this Land Rover belong to a different car, they won't be able to connect to the airbag system of that Land Rover, which means that in an event of an accident, the pretensioners won't be able to lock. However, it goes back to the same thing I said earlier, that having seat belts for a different model in a car is better than having none. Otherwise, if you feel like there's any issue about car seat belts that I haven't talked about and you're currently facing it, feel free to leave it in the comment section. I'll be able to get back to you. And if it also helps, I don't have any problem doing a part 2 of this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bless.